One. Hello everyone, my name is Jarek Wilkiewicz. Welcome to YouTube Developers Live. We have an exciting show for you today. Let me first introduce our hosts and guests. In the studio, I have Jeremy Walker.
All right.
How are you doing, Jeremy?
I'm doing great.
I hear you've been traveling lately?
Yep, I've been gone in Brazil for the last 7 to 8 days.
What were you doing in Brazil?
I was going around promoting the YouTube APIs, so I went to a bunch of cities, Sao Paulo, Belo Horizonte, and I talked to a lot of developer groups about using the YouTube APIs.
Are you going to show us any samba moves later on in this broadcast that you picked up in Brazil?
I left those with the drinking in Brazil. So.
Oh, I see. Well, I am disappointed. All right, then we have Jeff Posnick joining us live from New York. How are you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing very well. Hopefully looking higher quality today than in previous weeks. I'm like full 720p right now, and I hope it comes across.
Indeed. I am told you're looking fantastic today. All right, and then let me introduce our guests who have joined us from Florida and Chicago, I understand?
Yes.
Phil?
Hi, I'm Phil Harris, CEO of Geofeedia.
And Scott?
And Scott Mitchell, CTO of Geofeedia.
All right, and then Scott, you're based in?
Naples, Florida. Sunny Naples, Florida.
Unlike rainy Northern California?
Unlike it is here. We were hoping for some sunny weather, but instead got some rain, but not so bad.
Yeah, we like the rain here in the winter. I think otherwise the downside is drought in the summer. And then Phil, you live in Chicago?
In Chicago, and our business team is gearing up for a pretty cold winter.
All right. So let's chat a little bit about your product. I wanted to start off with a simple question. What is the problem you're trying to solve? And then maybe get into how did you come up with the idea?
Great. Thanks, Jarek. First of all, thank you very much, Google, for having us today. Google's a wonderful partner, and especially the YouTube team. So appreciate Jeremy, all the support. Geofeedia provides social media search and location monitoring by physical location. We aggregate social media across multiple different social data sets to provide businesses, we're a business tool, to provide businesses insights about what's happening at their physical locations. So any business, government agency, or other group that has a physical location would find value in the Geofeedia data set. We aggregate data from many different sources, YouTube being one of them. And unlike traditional social media listening tools, which are text-based, keyword and hashtag-based, we incorporate lots of video, imagery, to give businesses not only a text-based repository of data to mine, but also imagery about what's happening at their restaurant, what's happening at their store, what's happening at their event. There's a saying, a picture tells 1,000 words. Well, with Geofeedia, you can quickly assess what's happening. So we provide a very different way of looking at that social media data set compared to the traditional social media listening tools, which are keyword and hashtag based.
Very interesting. So picture is worth 1,000 words. So how much is a video worth?
10 times as much.
What about video at 60 frames per second?
It was worth way more.
Great. So very interesting. So how did you come up with the idea?
Well, we are technology executives on the technical side and the business side, and one of the complaints we kept hearing from brand managers and other purchasers and users of social media listening tools was that they didn't find the data relevant and actionable. These tools aggregate lots of data, so the goal is to incorporate as much data as possible, and then the business would get graphs and charts on different things happening on aggregate volume. When you really ask them candidly if it's of use, they say, well, we need to know what's happening, but very little of it is actionable, meaning there's things that really we can take action on and make use of. What we're trying to do is filter out the vast majority of data and only collect information happening at a customer's physical location. So that person has experienced a retail experience, a brand experience, and we only collect information that's from that location, so it's much more contextual. And what we're hearing is that when a consumer visits a store, for example, and experiences it and then gives feedback, the brand manager is saying that's much more valuable than someone who never visited the store
Yeah.
commenting on the store.
Yeah, yeah. Very,
It's very
interesting.
contextual.
So, should we take a look at a demo before we drill into?
I
some
think
more
we
of
should.
the-
I
of
think we
this?
should jump in, and I'll turn it over to Scott Mitchell, Geofeedia's CTO.
Great.
All right. Scott, you have the floor.
Let's jump right in. All right. So, as Phil described, Geofeedia is a search by location tool. So we allow you to locate a position on a map and find different tweets, pictures, and videos that are within that location. Before I start the demo, I'll preface it by saying we're querying live, real public data. So anything that we see in the results, it may get a little goosey at times. So this could get interesting. Right here we can see on the map view Geofeedia's main interface for starting a query. So just like Google starts you on their homepage with a search box to type in a keyword, with Geofeedia, since our searches are not keyword-based, they're location-based, we start you with the map. And in the most simple form, users search the map with a circle, and the circle can be expanded, contracted, and shifted around the map. And then the blue button there in the middle of the circle runs the query. As this query is running, excuse me, the system is going out and finding pictures from Instagram, videos from YouTube, photos from Flickr, and tweets. And it's only looking for posts that are geotagged within this area. So we're filtering out, as Phil said, a lot of the noise that comes in regular searches that users might do with standard keyword or hashtag queries for items that might be in, say, Midtown Manhattan.
So I see the query completed, and then items that were found are shown as those little thumbnails on the map.
That's correct. They are pins located on the map with their exact geotagged location of where they were posted by the user.
And you can filter sources, right?
Yep, and we can, right now we're showing by default the first 100 or the most recent 100 posts in this area. So you see a lot of tweets and Instagram photos as the primary activity, but let's turn those off and get down to, maybe we're interested in just looking at YouTube videos. So I can easily turn off those other sources and immediately get to just the YouTube videos that are within this region as well. And again, these are videos that are geotagged at these locations, some of which may have been taken by users on their mobile phone and uploaded directly to YouTube through their mobile phone. Others may have been uploaded to YouTube and then geotagged through the youtube.com interface.
Is there a temporal dimension to this as well? Do people can they request only recent tweets or videos, or how does that work?
Yep, that's there's also different ways to filter the content and drill down further than just the sources. And if we look at the date filters here, we can query for items that were posted between a date range, before a particular date range, or after a particular date. So we can get very granular in terms of date and source filtering. And then also we have the ability to break the content down into even more. We can fine-tune it even more by applying some X-query filters to the raw data. That's an advanced feature, but it lets users query on any of the metadata that's tied to these videos, title, author, more on the dates, descriptions, or any of the data that we can get back from the YouTube Atom result. We can apply an X-query to the result and filter the videos based on that.
And obviously when you click on one of these, you can watch the video, or with the other social products, you can look at pictures or whatever that was posted.
So a couple different ways to do that. One is in this map view, we can hover over the pins and we can see a description of each item and a play button that will play the video right in line. The other option to view this data is to look at our collage view, which is a Pinterest inspired view of the data, if you will. And I'm going to, let's just turn on some Picasa photos here too, so we can see what it looks like with photos and videos interspersed together.
Oh, okay.
And in this view, it's a different way to look at the data. Instead of hovering around the pins on the map, you can consume it all at once and scroll down. You can see as we get to the bottom of the page, it will load more items in an infinite scrolling manner. So, like I said, we're looking at the most recent 100 in reverse chronological order, and it continues to load farther and farther back in time. The nice thing about YouTube and Picasa is that they've been around for years and years and years. So we've seen data from both these sources going back to 2006 that people are able to find with our tool, and that's useful for our customers that are interested in doing research at particular areas, journalists that are looking for information from locations, and also just any sort of business intelligence that you might need to apply.
So you mentioned that the way you present the data makes it actionable. So what are the typical actions that people take? I mean, when I see this Pinterest-like view, I mean, what are the use cases, and are you helping with any of these to kind of get to the next step?
Sure. It depends on the organization, but it could be a customer service related issue. It could be in the area of law enforcement. There could be some criminal activity that happens in a certain location. It could be some other level of crisis, like Hurricane Sandy. We saw extraordinary amount of usage to help save people that were stranded in their houses. So emergency responders used it quite heavily. So it really, when something happens at a place, this is real-time activity, real-time intelligence, and because much of it is in picture form, it does require some level of judgment and kind of decision-making from an individual.
Yeah.
But there are trends that we look at to trigger people to look at geographies depending on activity, depending on certain things happening within that geography as well, to alert them that there is actually something that they should look at right now.
I see. So you could look at some aggregate metrics, for example, high number of videos or tweets posted from a specific area.
Absolutely.
But with respect to their content, this is where the human comes into the picture. And they have
I
to
think
make
so.
a judgment.
I think so. And an example would be for Hurricane Sandy, there was an Instagram picture or a Picasa picture, I think, that surfaced that said that the 86th Street subway terminal had flooded. And there was only one image. Nobody else was talking about it. Okay, with our tool, we drew a geofence around that area. There was nothing else. If the 86th Street subway terminal had flooded in Manhattan, I think more than one person would be commenting on it. So it ended up being a false. Someone had photoshopped something or mocked up an imagery. On the flip side, there was a lot of activity from Point Pleasant, New Jersey, claiming on homes getting bombarded with waves and whatnot. And when you drew a geofeed, which is what we call this virtual perimeter around a physical location, around Point Pleasant, New Jersey, you could clearly see that waves were literally crashing into beachside homes and destroying them. And there was not just one, there were dozens of them.
So it sounds like this actually greatly improves the quality of the information.
Yes. Because it's all related to a place.
Great. Sorry I interrupted your
No, it's good.
train of thought.
Great question.
But,
when you see the tool in action and actually start using it, I think it conjures up a whole set of thoughts around, all right, I can get this YouTube data and these videos now by location in a way that I couldn't before. And it's interesting to search by keyword and do that on youtube.com and through Google, but it's also very interesting to look at different places that are that have some sort of intrigue to you, whether it's your alma mater, or it's your hometown, or it's your favorite vacation spot, or if it's part of your job, like Phil mentioned, for first responders, crisis management, even retail locations looking to get some intelligence. So no problem with the questions. So we'll flip again back over to the map, and the circle search is one that we showed. We also have the ability to narrow down into a very specific polygon, so we can draw these complex polygons and also search within those. There is no limit to the level of detail you can get down to. We can search within the proximity of a phone booth if you need to. We can also go out as wide as 5 kilometers. So flexible search tools there. And as Phil mentioned too, we talk about these as geofeeds. So you have the area that you're interested in, whether it's the circle or the polygon or the square of the map. Once you save that, you've saved the geofeed. And that geofeed can be viewed in a few different ways. One is on this map view along with the collage, and you can see the search results. I can flip back over there. Suppose that we're a journalist and we're covering a particular event that's happened at this location. It might not be reasonable to expect the journalist to pull up this geofeed and continue to refresh the page to see the most recent items that are coming into this area. So to solve that, we've also built a bit of a different view of a geofeed, which is here that I'm showing. This is our Geo Streamer tool, which streams the results of a geofeed live to your desktop through the browser. So you can see now we're looking at a little bit of a different area on the map view with different pins appearing on the map. And if I just collapse that map view, we'll see, since this is a very active area, we'll see new things pop into the to the top of this feed. So you can imagine if you're, again, back to that journalist scenario, suppose you're covering a few months back when it was the shooting at the Empire State Building, and there were journalists getting onto the tool and searching within that vicinity to see what live photos and tweets were being posted from people that were actually at the location. This is a very helpful technology to get at that right away. They're already doing it with tools like TweetDeck to see the live streams of information. This complements that so that they can look at it and pull in data also from an area, not just by keyword.
That's great.
So I'd also like to get into some of the ways that Geofeedia leverages Google
Yeah, I
technology.
noticed you had a couple extra tabs on what you're actually using, the YouTube APIs. So you're using the version 2 of the data API, correct?
That's right. We're using YouTube's V2, and particularly related to that, we're using the location search elements. So you'll find this in the V2 documentation for the video search. I'm in that section on this document, and you'll see information on how to use the location element, the location query parameter. This parameter, we use it to specify the radius of the search area that we're looking for around the particular latitude longitude that the customer is looking at. So, and then from there we further refine the results to make sure that they only fit in with the exact polygon that the user wants. And then also, I should mention, I'm not sure if all developers are even aware of this, but we do use the Google hosted libraries. You can search for that on Google, and you'll end up at this page that shows the variety of JavaScript libraries that are hosted by Google on Google servers. We use jQuery. We use the jQuery hosted library, so that's been great for us to be able to offload that and pull it very quickly. Speed is something that's super important to us in terms of page load times for our users. So we definitely like to offload as much of that from our servers as possible. Google provides one way to do that for us. And then also, Google-inspired technology that we've built comes in the form of portability for our geofeeds. So we talked about being able to search and see the results in the collage and the map, being able to stream. We also have APIs around these geofeeds as well. And these were, like I said, inspired by Google's YouTube and Picasa APIs, where we decided our geofeed should be portable in an RSS and Atom format. Mm-hmm. So we've been able to build output methods that, with the same URL requests, we can respond with an Atom response. So, and it's formatted as GeoRSS. So if you take that Atom response and actually just dump it into a Google map like we've done here, all I've done in this Google Maps screen is put the URL to our Atom feed in the search box there, and you can see how Google Maps shows.
I just hit back. I think we hit the microphone, so it thought.
Oh.
I just hit forward. We'll try that again. I think the microphone thought you were trying to search on that, so yeah, there we go.
We'll pull it back up here. So Google Maps shows our feeds just as you would see them in the map view on Geofeedia, and then also, I know version 3 of the YouTube API is out there in experimental mode, and looking at things like JSON as a response format. And we've done the same thing as well with our geofeeds to make them accessible through APIs in JSON format so that they can be consumed very easily on the JavaScript side.
So I take it you guys haven't messed around yet with the version 3 of the APIs?
No, we have. We would like to get into that. There's some things that we've talked about that are attractive to us, especially the JSON formatting and also the ability to specify what gets returned back in the response from Google, so that we can optimize the payload and the speed at which we can process that. We want to minimize as much as possible the amount of data going across the wire and the amount of data that we need to process.
Yeah.
So the features of V3 that allow us to only get back the elements and the nodes that we need in that payload is something that's very attractive. So we'll be looking at that as soon as you tell me it's ready to go.
Okay. I'm curious, what are you guys using on the back end to handle all this?
We are I'll say a 90% Microsoft stack.
Okay.
So we have a host of servers in the cloud that we run, Microsoft ASP.NET, MVC, SQL Server as the backend database. The other percentage of our stack that is not Microsoft runs on Linux, uses RabbitMQ for a very high speed, high throughput, highly available queuing system. As you can imagine with the streamer, getting thousands and tens of thousands of people streaming content at one time is a solution that is very difficult to scale to. So we needed that availability, and we went away from Microsoft for that.
Okay.
That's working well. And then we're also looking at Cassandra as a way to handle much bigger data than we are today. So that's farther out in our future.
Great. I'm curious, was there anything you've ran into that surprised you, or that, when you're using our APIs that you could share with us?
Yes,
Any of your experiences?
Yeah, this is. Let me close that out there. We love Google technologies. We're fully baked into to Google Apps as a company, using that and Gmail. But it's not just because we like Google. We like the response. We like the speed. We like the durability of it all. So I couldn't think of a way to really convey that except to show the results that we see between the YouTube and the Picasa APIs and the other APIs that we use in our system. So we constantly monitor the response times on those API calls that we make to retrieve data. And I've graphed those out here over time. And you can see that the YouTube response times are very consistent. There are some peaks and valleys there, but for the most part, those are very bearable for systems like ours. And they range around the 300 to 400 millisecond range there. Picasa is a little bit higher, but equally consistent. And you can see the other APIs in the gray, are not nearly as consistent, and 4 to 5 times slower. So going into this, we didn't know what to expect in terms of building a tool that mashed up data from different APIs and the response time that we'd get on those. But we were surprised to see that YouTube and Picasa were so consistent, were so stable. This chart doesn't show the number of errors that each one of these APIs returns, but I can tell you that YouTube and Picasa are an order of magnitude or more better than the other APIs, even in terms of their errors. So
I think the peaks correspond to various videos going viral. In fact, I think the last one is Psy's Gangnam Style.
Really, I heard Jeremy knows that dance. He may not know the
I
Mamba,
just
but he
got
knows
back
that
from South Korea, so I couldn't resist that comment.
Wow, that's pretty neat. I guess, do you have anything you'd share with the audience of people who are going to start integrating with the APIs, like any kernels that you could throw to them that you think they should think about as they start their integration?
I'd say the documentation that we were looking at before for the YouTube API version 2, definitely spend time reading this, researching it, looking at it, understanding it. It's very easy. Google makes it very easy to jump into an API, write a URL, get your data back, and begin using it. There's nuances, though, of those APIs that can really help you out, really help you get to the exact data you need, help you filter your data, and it seems to also be something that is, at least the documentation, I'm not so sure about the back end, but it gets better over time. So it's not something that is out there and is static and never changes month after month. This documentation is constantly evolving, so revisiting it. I'm constantly going back and looking at the location query parameter usage and making sure that we're doing that in using the best practices that Google recommends. So I think staying current with the documentation, reading it, and understanding it before jumping in is key to success.
Well, great. Thanks for the demo and kind of talking a little bit about the API. This is great stuff, and it's really interesting to see that graph.
And we'll definitely pass the documentation feedback to our documentation guy, Andy.
Yeah.
He'll be happy to know somebody's reading it.
Yeah, we get a lot of very good feedback for the quality of his work.
Okay.
All right, so should we transition to Jeff's Stack Overflow question of the week now?
Sure. Did you have anything else you wanted to add? I know we were talking a little bit about the technical side, and we really dove into that, but I just wanted to make sure we didn't miss anything.
No, that's great. I think that appreciate that. What we're seeing is with the proliferation of smartphones that have geolocation services, combined with the app developers like YouTube and Picasa promoting geolocation services within the application environment. We think that this location-based data set will become more and more, become richer and richer over time. So we're very excited to work with Google to make that a reality and to provide that richer experience for our customers. So we couldn't be more excited about the trends, about the power of social media. Like all new disruptive technology, it's not perfect, requires a certain amount of education on when to use geolocation services and when not to use it, especially for children. So we're just very, very excited about working together to make that data set richer and richer and letting consumers' voices be heard by businesses. I think it's an important point here is that if you're experiencing something at a McDonald's, real time, and you express yourself either through a video or through a picture, wouldn't it be great if you heard back from a McDonald's person addressing your complaint real time while you had that experience, even if it was a virtual type complaint or maybe compliment even. That real time voice, I think we allow that to be amplified through. Obviously, we would be nowhere if we didn't have the underlying data set. But provided we have the data set, we can allow those consumers' voices to be heard more broadly by businesses.
And actually, this reminds me of a point that one of our guests made on this show earlier, Link TV. They were talking about the paper that they published about how people view user-generated media.
Yes.
And I think the key part that appeals, especially to certain demographics like younger people, is the authenticity of it.
Yes.
So I think with your solution, you can actually filter out the noise by overlaying the geo information on top of content that may be coming from sources that are not necessarily authentic. I mean, there could be bots tweeting and things like that, right? So I think that takes care of actually filtering it out. But then in and of itself, I think the content is considered authentic by people who care about it and therefore should be more important to the businesses that use it.
You bring up an outstanding point. There's a broad trend called citizen journalism, and in unprecedented ways, YouTube, Picasa users can express themselves with more authenticity, with contextual place, with context related to a place. And that power makes it that much more real for the consumer of that information because it's more authentic and it's more real and it's real time.
Yep.
It's real time, which is this is unprecedented in human history.
All right, great. So I know Jeff has been getting a little bored with us doing all the talking out in New York City. Jeff, you still there?
It's interesting stuff, absolutely, and very interesting stuff about Geofeedia. So I've been listening intently, and I'd be happy to talk about the Stack Overflow question of the week now.
Let's go for it.
Cool. Okay. So kind of one question I've been engaging with mostly is something about using what we, I guess, now refer to as legacy YouTube usernames within version 3 of the API. So folks are familiar with the older version 1 or 2 of the API probably know, you could construct a request URL using, gdata.youtube.com// Google developers. And you can put the Google developers username in the URL, and you could get the uploads feed for Google developers, things like that. And you can do that for any YouTube username. Version 3, things are a little different. We don't actually accept legacy YouTube usernames as part of either the request URLs or as part of the request parameters anymore. Everything is done via these channel IDs. Channel IDs were exposed in version 2 of the API, but tended not to be used quite as much. So the question comes from Mark Costello, Stack Overflow user, and he just wanted to know what's the best way of translating, from a legacy YouTube username into a channel ID that you could then use with version 3. This question was actually answered by Matthias, who's kind of one of our Google developer experts for YouTube. So thank you, Matthias, for initially providing the response there. And basically what Matthias said was doing a search. We now have universal search in the YouTube API starting in version 3. So you can search for channels via the same search.list method. And you can pass in that YouTube username as one of the parameters for the query string. And you'll get back one or more, 0 or more channel resources showing you all the channels that match it. So this kind of works as you'd expect, although there is obviously some catches. You might pass in what you think was a unique YouTube username, or at least was a unique YouTube username in version 2. And you might get multiple results back when you're doing this search in version 3 because you're not doing an exact match, basically. There could be multiple things that trigger it. Or alternatively, maybe you're passing in a display name to the search method and you're getting back multiple results because there happens to be a lot of people who have the John Smith display name as part of their display name for their channel now. So you get back multiple results potentially in this case. So you just need to be aware of that potential for getting multiple results. We actually do have a feature request in with the engineering team to, instead of kind of do a search for any sort of channel that matches a string, to let you pass in a specific legacy username and get back the one specific channel that corresponds to in version 3 of the API. I haven't actually heard back from the engineering team that that's going to be implemented yet, so I'm afraid we don't have a better solution right now. But you can definitely try to do that search call from version 3, and hopefully you'll get something that works well enough for you. So that's pretty much what I want to cover for that. Definitely let us know about any questions that you have with version 3 of the data API, any of the other YouTube APIs on Stack Overflow. Really like interacting with folks there. And just be sure that you're tagging your question with YouTube-API when you post on Stack Overflow, and that way our team will see it and hopefully we'll be able to give you an answer. So
Great.
That's it for me.
Thank you for covering the Stack Overflow question of the week, as always, Jeff. Very interesting stuff. And then we just have a couple of more minutes left, so let's look at the moderator to see if we have any questions. So I see one question that is relevant from Jeremy Walker. Sounds familiar. Whether is YouTube Google Developer Relations hiring? So I will take a stab at that. The answer is yes. We are hiring both YouTube Developer Relations as well as Google. To find out more information, go to developers.google.com/jobs. You can see all the different types of positions that we have available, and we definitely encourage you to apply. It's a fun team to work on. Sometimes we get to do even more stuff. That is fun, like traveling to Brazil and dancing samba.
Yeah.
And then, but we're definitely looking for people to join our team. So I think this is it for this week.
Well, actually, we have some questions on YouTube for the Geofeedia guests. So the questions around social media for good. People are seeing that Geofeedia is a process that they can use to react to the type of disasters, to work with things like that. How do you guys see Geofeedia working with social media for good, and how have that been related to your story so far?
Well, that's an outstanding question. Geofeedia is being used today for emergency responders, volunteer organizations, to help provide relief, whether it's just any humanitarian effort. So we feel really good about our providing data to those organizations like FEMA, Red Cross, all across the EU, third world countries, etc. One of the issues with emergency responders is, where do you allocate your resources? What areas are most impacted? And minutes, hours can mean life or death for some people who are impacted. They might not have clean water. They might be stranded in a house. So anything we can do to get our tool into the hands of humanitarian organizations, relief organizations is a big win for us. So we were in Washington, D.C. recently at the World Bank for a presentation on crisis response, and we had worldwide organizations there looking on the tool, and we're happy to say that it's being utilized in real-time events like Hurricane Sandy and other situations around the globe.
Great. Any other questions coming in from the YouTube audience?
We have feedback. People love Geofeedia and what they're doing. But beyond that, no additional questions.
Okay,
Great.
Thank you.
I guess I have one more comment. If you'd like a Geofeedia trial account, you can go to geofeedia.com and request a trial. We are coming up on our 2-year anniversary, but most of that time, frankly, has been Scott and his team in a dark cave coding and working on building what you saw today. So we commercially launched the product earlier this year, and we've been overwhelmed with the response. But we realize the data businesses and relief organizations can do great things to hear the consumer voice. So if you have an interest in our product, we'd be happy to issue you a trial account. And of course, you can access all that great YouTube-rich, video-rich content in there and Picasso imagery in there. So we're very excited to have you as a partner.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hope you'll give preference to the viewers of the show.
Absolutely.
Yes.
All right, so let me try that again. I think this is it.
Sorry.
And we'll see you again next week. Same place, same time, 10 a.m. Pacific. Thank you.
Thank you all.